Lieutenant Weston, the captain's waiting for you on the bridge.
Released July 12, 2018 for Steam VR, currently holding a mixed rating. PSVR 1 and Rift versions were announced but apparently never realized. By developer and publisher Multiverse. Seeking Dawn. I have a love-hate relationship going on with this one. It did a lot of things impressively well, but also a whole lot of fumbling and bumbling. Perhaps that explains the mixed rating. But I take that rating with a grain of salt, as based on my Steam achievements, it says only 2.6% of players beat the final boss, only 2.3% beat the actual game, and only 0.5% of players beat the game on Master Mode, which, based on the fact that this title didn't pull in any record numbers, probably means I am that 0.5%. I'm probably the only guy who beat Seeking Dawn on Master Mode. And myself and a handful of others actually beat it, period. So those Steam reviews don't mean much to me. Watch Season 13 of the TV series, The Lab Video Game TV in 25 Caribbean countries on Flow 1. Download the Stream Blue app to watch us on the go. Listen to The Lab Video Game TV's gaming news every Thursday at 4 p.m. during the Sage Projects on Ontario's Island Radio 101.3 FM and CJAI.ca. Now join me as I take a deep dive into a VR experience that may or may not be VR gaming's best kept secret.
Now, if you're done hypothesizing...
Yeah, Captain. Sure.
Whether or not Seeking Dawn is an amazing hidden jewel, it deserves more love than it got. I've been chipping away at this since I grabbed it on sale in 2024. I deleted it due to space issues, thinking my save was safely in the cloud, but ended up losing all my progress maybe a quarter way through. I decided to start from scratch. Not my kind of thing. Usually when that happens, I just call it. I only restarted one other experience that died on me, The Thing on the original Xbox. An experience has to be really gripping for me to do that. So, I did, and I'm glad I did. However, although a 2018 title, there are some things, some major things, that explain what kept Seeking Dawn from greatness. I watched a handful of reviews on this. It's such an oddly designed game that I ended up having to do quite a bit of research on it. At one point I ended up emailing the devs after getting stuck, but there's not a lot of info out there on Seeking Dawn. And the reviews I mentioned were not very good. I get how that sounds, and I'm not that guy who takes pleasure in publicly trashing people's work. But come on guys. The Steam achievements coupled with your reviews proves that none of you played nearly enough of this to be casting judgment and making genuine recommendations. None of you guys who reviewed this game completed it. None of you even made it halfway through. I made certain to complete this before making this review. It's just that kind of experience. Going through it, plowing through the jank, the dated VR mechanics, the low-res visuals, I had this gut feeling that this experience was more than the sum of its parts.
That's good. Right?
Playing till the end credits didn't really do it any favors though. It simply prevented me from singing undeserved praise. By game's end, I realized it wasn't as good as I thought it was, but still deserves better than the reception it got.
Agreed.
The story, thrown together and uninteresting. Based on certain efforts made by the developers, I expected it to amount to something better, something more, but it never did. It's the kind of story that can get a pass in a decent to good video game experience, but would be awful as a film or book.
There you are. For a member of the Penumbra Corps, you sure took your sweet time.
Coleman.
That's Captain Coleman, Lieutenant.
You're a member of a science fiction military group in search of missing team members who crash-landed 6 weeks prior on an alien world. There's also an ongoing conflict with another organization called ACC. What starts off as a basic search and rescue escalates, but not into something interesting, intriguing, or mildly entertaining. It's incoherent at best.
I'm going to pretend you didn't say anything, Lieutenant.
The final boss doesn't even make any sense. Feels as thrown in as that ridiculous boss in Zero Caliber. You have data files you can peruse to learn more about the characters, organizations, creatures, and locations, but that does not help make sense of the story. I'm not even certain what the title means. I spent most of the experience searching for Captain Walker and her team. No one or thing named Dawn.
Speculation gets us nowhere, Lieutenant.
Over in sound, we've got decent B-movie voice acting. Thankfully, this was developed nearly 10 years ago, so AI wasn't a thing then.
Hey, I think I found the ship's black box.
Grab it. Can you get a reading with your scanner?
The voice acting on everyone's part is acceptable and adds value to the production. My character's breathing was borderline disturbing though. It sounded fine technically, but it was distracting. It sounded like he had some serious health issues. The score was great. The atmospheric music and sounds all helped pull me into this interesting experience. The sound effects were very well designed. I can't recall a point where the sound effects did not deliver. I particularly loved the sound effects when gathering resources from various rocks and plants, picking up items from fallen enemies and such. I should have pointed this out earlier, but the greatest element of Seeking Dawn is its atmosphere. And there were several elements that brought this atmosphere together. Sound is one, and then the visuals.
That's promising. That is promising, right?
Hard to say at this point.
Now, how can I best explain this? The visuals in Seeking Dawn are great visuals that look almost awful. Yeah, listening to myself say that makes no sense either, but I can explain. As with the sound, perhaps even more so, a level of attention to detail was exercised. Outside the jank and frustrating moments I experienced, Seeking Dawn had me feeling like I was in the alien world, in this strange realm. Although the visuals looked nowhere near as polished as that incredibly misleading trailer the devs put out prior to launch, there were similarities. Those gun reload animations do not appear in-game among other deceptions, but there is still an amazing level of detail here. The animations had me stopping to watch, no matter how many times I saw the same ones done. When gathering materials, this looks so good, as low-res as the images are. When using the portal gun, watching the portal form constantly had me thinking, these devs really put heart into this. The world is meticulously crafted. I've been in so many VR worlds, and here in Seeking Dawn, I'm certain I spent the most time just looking in awe at the level of detail put into these environments. The creature designs, from the monsters attacking you to the friendlies, the behemoths roaming around in the distance. When you approach a high bridge, a cliffside, a constant thought I had was, if this experience was ever to receive a remake or even a remaster with high-resolution textures, modern VR mechanics, I'd have to jump back in, and believe me, replaying the same title is not my thing. One of the main reasons I have yet to hop onto the RE4 VR remake. I already beat RE4 on the GameCube. Yeah, I said GameCube. That's how bad it is with me replaying titles.
Acknowledged.
I digress. The visuals are impressive, low-res dated look or not. I couldn't help but to gawk at the potential and ambition. There came a point where I had to adjust the brightness in some darker areas, then readjust when I got back outside, particularly for this boss fight, the Trogloth. It was just too dark, the inventory system was too dated, and so even though there is a flashlight, switching between weapons was too much of a production and a necessity at the same time. I needed to have two weapons in hand over a flashlight.
Hostile down.
Are you alright, Lieutenant?
Yeah. It was larger than the others.
But now I'm talking mechanics, so let's go over into gameplay. On startup, we've got VR settings, movement mode, movement speed, run mode, turning options, helmet on or off, and FOV. Then gameplay settings, sound and visuals. I cranked the visuals up to the highest and still didn't see anything close to that beautiful trailer. Just saying.
You don't have to tell me twice.
There's a brief tutorial at the beginning. Gets you familiar with the basics, but generally Seeking Dawn is a vague experience. I had to figure out so many important things the hard way. I'm certain at this point, there are a bunch of things I still don't know. It wasn't until the end of Seeking Dawn, after defeating the final boss and holding out for extraction, that I found out I had storage at the base. Found out my base could be repaired. At one point, I thought I was stuck. I emailed the dev team. I've never had to do that before, but Seeking Dawn is just that kind of experience. Trial by fire, figure it out your damn self the hard way.
Where's your sense of adventure? Sometimes you just have to find things out the old-fashioned way, with your own two hands.
At first, I was getting really frustrated by this approach, then I thought, you know what? Although I know this is questionable game design, I'll treat it as if it were real life. There's no hand-holding in real life once you're out of diapers. You gotta use that space between the ears. And that half-empty, half-full approach is what kept me grounded and rage-free. climbing. The first time I got stuck to the point I thought the game broke. It is not clearly explained that you can do this. You know how in many VR tutorials, especially in the earlier days of VR, when not so many people were familiar with the mechanics, and devs just started to figure out what we now consider the norm. In experiences like Zero Caliber, Tempest Fall, The Wizard, Dark Times, in their tutorials they teach you how to climb. Here in Seeking Dawn, I figured that out by trial and error. I was lucky to see a glimpse of an image. For a second, that was a ghost of your character climbing. I saw this for a second, and that's how I knew I could climb. I stood close to the spot and that illustration never happened. It was totally by chance I saw it. That's just bad game design. Regardless of the time this was released, and even after figuring out climbing, it was a janky experience, did not feel good at all. As with most of the mechanics at play here, the survival mechanics may feel annoying. It feels unnecessary. It feels like the devs had too many ideas they wanted to cram into Seeking Dawn. Survival, base building, crafting, action, adventure. It all makes sense once given the time though. It feels kind of endearing actually, adorable even. It's like I can't help but to smile on the inside out of sheer admiration of the passion and ambition put into creating this. I never found out what happened if your soldier ran completely low on food and water. So I can only assume he would slow down considerably or maybe expire. Because after figuring out the resource gathering mechanic, food becomes abundant.
Oh, I feel much better.
Another piece of jank though was that while there were these two items that worked really well for thirst, food and health, most other food items barely scratched the surface. I had to eat like 24 of this fruit to get my health bar to even budge. And back to the dated VR mechanics. Because there is no modern inventory backpack system, it took a lot of getting used to in order to maneuver and navigate items, food and weapons, especially on the fly in heated situations, but I eventually found a flow state. Because I didn't figure out the warehouse system, the storage back at base, which I now facepalm in regret for, I ended up having a lot of stuff I didn't see the use for, and had to keep hearing the annoying "your backpack is full" statement over and over.
Your backpack is full.
Realized it really didn't matter though. A lot of things in Seeking Dawn are superfluous, almost useless. Take for example the armor upgrades. I upgraded my armor to no more than 4% I think. I didn't unlock most of the turrets or some of the more powerful guns, but I still completed the entire experience above most players. So that speaks volumes of Seeking Dawn's design. Most of that stuff was unnecessary. There were times, like at the end, when I felt stuck and thought, oh shit, maybe I should have crafted more turrets, better guns, and more armor. Is this why I can't progress? But that wasn't the case. And the weapons were also questionable. I get that some weapons work better on certain opposition, but it got kind of ridiculous. Fighting the ACC soldiers was just plain bad. Almost embarrassing. They personify the term bullet sponges. And it didn't matter what gun you used, what the RPG-styled numbers popping up over their fallen bodies said. Where you shot them, they just kept coming. A rocket at point-blank range barely made a scratch, and it was like that with most of the monsters, but was really noticeable against human enemies. Once I found this thing called the Juggernaut though, which by the way I didn't realize was a weapon when I first got it. It seemed like another resource gathering tool, but once I got it and figured out it was a weapon, it was my go-to. Perhaps the most powerful weapon in the game.
How does that even work?
That's above your pay grade, soldier.
That's the thing though. The thing that pretty much defines Seeking Dawn. It's an experience that's extremely rough around the edges, seems to have an identity crisis, throws you in the deep end, but once you figure out how to swim, it becomes serviceable. You may begin to overlook and forgive the flaws, start focusing on the positives instead.
That works.
There is no map. A strange design choice for an experience that requires so much exploration, even though linear.
Then use your right controller to aim at the location you'd like to travel to, and press the trigger to select it. This will open up a portal behind the platform that will take you to your destination.
They are fast to travel points though, and come to think of it, I wouldn't be surprised if someone watching this tells me there is a map. Wouldn't be the first major gameplay element I missed in this vague experience. You can't hold weapons with two hands. Another deceitful illusion displayed in the trailer along with manual reloading. There's none of that. And you can't really aim down sight. There are no sights, just janky crosshairs. You probably figured this out by now, but you can't holster weapons either. In my earlier notes for this review, I was going to lean in on the boss fights. I was gonna say what a chore they were, and the fact that the multiplayer servers are down is a bad thing, because fighting this one boss here was hell. And the entire time I couldn't help but to think how easy it would be to take this monstrosity out with a teammate. This was also another time I thought the game was broken. It took me months to take this fucker out. Again, the clunky inventory system and the visuals were factors at play here. Also figuring out how to use the Juggernaut properly in combination with the grenade launcher.
We'll see about that. Time to die.
But about the bosses. I expected a whole bunch of these miserable boss encounters after the first, but Seeking Dawn only has 2 boss fights, and the second is easier than the first. I don't consider that encounter at the extraction point a real boss fight. That's just the devs reminding me they didn't know when to quit. That extraction point, by the way, was when extreme tedium set in. When I just got there, I wasn't aware of what to do. It was at this stage, through a whole lot of trial and error and online research, where I found out the base could be repaired and barely figured out how to do it. When I say barely, I mean it. I couldn't tell you exactly how I got that reconstructor tool to work.
Interesting.
So this was another lengthy one. A lengthy review. But this is where some of my passion lie. I can't trust short reviews for most experiences. I'm not saying you need to see credits roll on every game before reviewing it, but just breezing through the first 2 hours of certain genres does not cut the butter. Rushing to get a review out for the initial views, the hype of being among the first to release your review, in the hopes of pleasing the algorithm isn't for me. That's why I have such an enormous backlog, and also why you'll see me reviewing old titles like these. Some of you cats need to be more honest with your titles. Call them first impression reviews or partial reviews.
This is a fine line you're treading, Lieutenant. You had best be careful about which side of it you end up on.
Seeking Dawn, flaws and all, deserves this though. A lot of this review seemed harsh, especially for a nearly decade-old VR game. But this was all tough love. I'm filled with deep admiration, pride, and respect for what this dev team did here. And although despite the ending, I know there'll be no sequel or remake. If there was one, I'd be all over it. Imagine what these guys could do today with Seeking Dawn. Unfortunately, the team's next release is not VR, Pax Autocratica. And based on the current state of VR, I suspect VR is the furthest thing from their minds. The Steam frame may change that, but until then, this is what it is. Maybe some talented modder will step up and make something happen. I doubt that as well though. Like I said, most people in the VR space don't even seem to know Seeking Dawn exists. Watch season 13 of the TV series, The Lab Video Game TV, in 25 Caribbean countries on Flow One. Download the Stream Blue app to watch us on the go. Listen to The Lab Video Game TV's gaming news every Thursday at 4 p.m. during the Sage Projects on Ontario's Island Radio 101.3 FM and CJAI.ca. Thank you for watching. If you like my content, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If on the other hand, I found a way to piss you off with this one, then take the logical course of action. Dislike, unsub, leave a feisty comment in the comment section voicing your displeasure with what you endured on this fine day. Either way, I won't hold it against you. Our game is never over.
Come on. It's time to go. We've got a war to win.
Roger that, Captain.